is that it will, in theory, a stronger ticket than Taiwan plus Su Jia-quan. And Su Jia-quan, as her running mate, turned out to be a liability. So in the end, Taiwan only recovered the DPP, the traditional or conventional electoral strength, about 45% of the electorate. And then another puzzle that we have to answer is that why most observer and most expert had predicted, it was going to be a very tight race. But in the end, Ma had, I would say, not a landslide, but at least a convincing, a comfortable win, with 6% winning margin over his opponent. I think the perceived tightness of the race was the major reason. That this perception, the perception, prompt many reluctant and lukewarm Pembroke and independent voters to come out. It also prompted many Taiwanese expatriates to return from the mainland. It also actually convinced some of James Soong's loyalists to split their vote between the presidential race and parliamentary race. And a very revealing piece of evidence lies in the turnout rate. If you compare the turnout rate in Taipei, Xinbei City, Taoyuan, these are the traditionally stronghold of Pembroke camp, and with say Tainan or Kaohsiung and Pingdong, actually all those northern county and city have slightly higher turnout rate than those southern urban center, and this is just opposite of what we have witnessed in the past. Normally, in the South, the turnout rate, will tend to be slightly higher than the North, but not this time around. And then while the election had appeared to be too close to call, despite the fact that most of the pollsters, had predicted, based on their survey, that consistently enjoy considerable leading margin over time. But the problem is that nobody believes in them, and not even themselves. But there's a widely shared the so-called the conventional wisdom among the observer or the expert that the popular opinion poll have a track record underestimating the Pembroke potential popular vote. So so people say you always have to do some weighting, especially if you have large number of respondents who decline to give an answer, even the race coming to to the finishing line. And in most surveys that I have encountered, at least close to a quarter, sometimes even higher, of the respondents who say they probably will come out to vote, but they decline to indicate their choice. So then the pollster have to figure out how to do the extrapolation, and then the conventional wisdom instruct them to give higher weight to the potential green vote rather than to the blue vote. But this time that conventional wisdom really failed them. So that's why after those technical adjustments, most people predicted a very tight race. And at the same time, both parties, the KMT and DPP, I think for different reasons, for different technical reasons, they all want to sustain this perception. Ma Ying-jeou was fully aware of the fact that there are many disenchanted Pembroke voters. So his campaign manager wants to sustain this perception of a Thai race. And the DPP, they are lagging behind, but nevertheless they want to sustain their morale, so they want to keep up, this passion among their supporters. So that's why, that was the reason for this widely held perception, which in the end, doesn't resonate well with the reality. And then what would happen after this election? I believe that this election, in retrospect, I think it consolidated the political coalition behind the KMT policy of cross-trade political conciliation and economic cooperation. I will argue that this political coalition, socio-economic speaking, is broadly based. Nowadays, not just business tycoon, they have great stake in the stability and prosperity that flow out of this improved relationship with mainland China. And mainland China, I think, in the recent past has emerged not just as an indispensable manufacturing platform for Taiwan's export-oriented company, but also increasingly a source of tourist spending, a source of investment, and also a source of consuming power for Taiwan's export. So there are many potential and actual beneficiaries of this improved relationship. You are talking about even medical doctor, professional, attorney, catering, hotel, agricultural, you just name it. Many sectors, they either has already benefit from the closer economic tie, or are expecting, their economic interests might be enhanced. And politically, I think this election strengthened the legitimacy of the 1992 consensus. Some people even argue that this race is functionally equivalent to a referendum vote on the issue. And I think more importantly, for Taiwan's electoral politics on the long run, I will argue that this election marked a very clear paradigm shift in terms of parameter of electoral context and partisan cleavage on this island. The center of political gravity has been shifted. The de jure independent agenda, which normally include advocating for adoption of a new constitution, adopting a new name for the country, full membership in the UN, and upholding the principle of self-determination, and so on and so forth. All these issues were overtaken by the more pragmatic debate over how to maximize the gain and minimize the cost and risk that came with cross-strait economic integration in the larger process of economic globalization. So I would expect that for the next 4 years, especially for the next 2 years, because that will be the window opportunity for Ma's second term, and after that, gradually lame duck syndrome will start kicking. I think Ma this time enjoyed a convincing win, and also his party this time get a reduced but still solid majority in the legislative yuan. The KMT won 64 seats outright, plus 3 independent who routinely ally with the KMT. So this is still a solid majority. So after this election, I think Ma's administration will be more confident in pursuing a strategy of harvesting the peace dividend. it will accelerate the post-ECFA trade negotiation, expand the cultural and education chain across trade, welcome more mainland Chinese tourists, and also push for more international space. Some observers, although in their private capacity, and one of them is Luo Zizhen, one of my dear friend and colleague, but he officially was a spokesman of the party, although this time she will go to that annual meeting in his scholarly capacity. And this would be, I think, a bellwether event. I think more weighty scholar and even weighty political figure from the DP can probably will launch their first ever trip to mainland China. However, I think for the next 4 years, the latitude of mainland policy will remain somewhat limited. The realm of possibility are pretty much will confine to the following agenda. So this is something probably could be accomplished. I just name a few: wrapping up the post-ECFA trade negotiation, setting up semi-official liaison office on each side. Means that SEF and ERIC, they can set up their liaison office. And the two sides might coming closer to sign a cultural and education cooperation accord on top of many other economic agreements. And the two sides will expand cooperation in the joint development of many sunrise industries such as electrical car, alternative energy, transmedicine, things like that. And also there's the possibility that the two sides might, with some official blessing, the two sides might launch a second track dialogue over political issue and issue related to Taiwan international space. On the other hand, there are certain issues has been discussed, by some analysts, that could be on Ma's agenda, but I don't think realistically it will be on his agenda. Such as coordination with Beijing move over South China Sea, such as initiating cross-strait security and military confidence building measure, CBM, or to kick off the negotiation over a peace accord, or to indicate a stronger commitment to one China principle beyond the 1992 conference. I don't think these are really on his agenda. Besides, I think one of the reasons why he can only enjoy a very limited latitude, I think his administration for the next 4 years has to constantly reassure the public that closer economic and cultural ties with mainland China are not compromising Taiwan's political autonomy, the ROC's de facto sovereign status, and the security tie with the United States. What about Beijing? What they might expect out of Ma's second term? I believe either Rumber or many people like him oftentimes remind us that Beijing might pressure, mind you, to offer some kind of payoff, political payoff, in exchange for more economic and diplomatic concession. But I believe that a careful reading of the mindset of Beijing's policymaker, I don't think that it's going to be a very likely scenario. I believe that Beijing top leadership